Hey guys, I hope you're doing great today. This is our chapter number 5 in which we are going to discuss about AWS infrastructure. Guys, we know that AWS is the world's largest cloud platform till date. AWS has the world's largest market share if we talk about the cloud platforms. AWS is the world number one cloud platform. And the reason behind is AWS Global Infrastructure. We know that AWS has expanded its regions, availability zones, edge locations, data centers around the world. That is why AWS uses powerful and robust infrastructure to power all of its services. So that would be a little quick chapter in which we have a quick look over the AWS infrastructure. So let's get started. And before we get started, make sure that you have subscribed DevOps Molvi. I really appreciate your support. So guys, we know that AWS is global. What does this mean? The AWS spans 114 availability zones within 36 geographic regions. Now, I'm recording my video today. It's 15th of July 2025. And it does not mean that AWS expansion of its regions has stopped. No, there would be still one region coming soon, and there are multiple locations where AWS is going to build new regions, new availability zones, and data centers. But till date, AWS has 114 availability zones. Now, what is availability zone? We are going to discuss it in the next slide. And 36 geographic regions. 16 more availability zones and 5 more regions in New Zealand, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Taiwan, Chile are coming soon. So these are the geographic locations in which AWS is planning or building its regions. AWS is building its data centers on these 5 upcoming locations. So that would be roughly 41 geographic regions that AWS will have in the coming year. So till date, AWS has 114 availability zones and 36 geographic locations or geographic regions. Now we are going to discuss each term one by one. So what is an AWS region? We talked about 36 AWS regions. So what is actually a region? An AWS region is a physical location on Earth where AWS has its data centers. For instance, if I belong to Pakistan and AWS decides to build an AWS region in one of the Pakistani cities like in Karachi or Lahore or in Islamabad. So it means that either Karachi, Lahore or Islamabad is AWS geographic location. It would be an AWS region. Like we have Mumbai in India, we have London, we have Sao Paulo, we have US East, we have US West. These are all geographic locations where AWS has built its regions. AWS regions are distinct geographic areas like US East, North Virginia, US West, Oregon, Europe, Ireland, etc. So these are all AWS region, and each region can have multiple availability zones, and each availability zone can have multiple data centers. I hope you got my point. So among these AWS regions, the North Virginia or US East is the world's largest and most mature AWS region. And AWS has already launched 36 regions worldwide. Number 37 is coming soon as per AWS website. And it would be going to be launched really soon. So there would be 37 regions in total. But as per previous slide, we can know that AWS is going to launch more regions in New Zealand, Saudi Arabia, Taiwan, Chile. So there would be total of 41 AWS regions in the future. Now, what is an availability zone? We know that geographically, a location having availability zones or data centers is known as a region. That region is actually a geographic location. Now, in that region, there can be one availability zone or multiple availability zones. Now, what is an availability zone? An availability zone is a collection of one or more data centers. Now, focus on this point that one availability zone can have only one data center, or it can have one, two, or three data centers as well. So, it is not limited that one availability zone should have only one data center. No, a single availability zone can have one, two, or three data centers. So, an availability zone is a collection of one or more data centers. Now, what is a data center? Actually, a data center is where our actual servers are mounted. They are mounted in the racks. There are generators. That data center has a wall, a building where thousands of servers are running, and one availability zone can have this one data center or two or three data centers. Availability zones are highly available data centers within each AWS region. Each AZ availability zone is a physically isolated yet connected cluster of one or more data centers within a specific AWS region. Guys, for instance, if I am going to launch a virtual machine, I have the choice that I want to launch it in US East region, then I have the choice that if I want to launch it in availability zone A1, B1, C1, or F1. Okay, it is my choice that I want to launch the AWS EC2 instance in any region of my choice or in any availability zone of my choice. So each availability zone is a physically isolated yet connected cluster of one or more data centers within a specific AWS region. Now, it concludes that each AWS region can have one or more availability zone, and then each availability zone can have one or more data centers. So it means that an AWS region consists of multiple availability zones with multiple data centers. By deploying applications across multiple AZs, we can achieve high availability. Now, what is the core purpose of having too many data centers or too many availability zones in a single region? For instance, if any unfortunate incident happens and one of the availability zones goes down, then all the traffic is diverted to the availability zones that are up and running. Now, that is actually for customers so that their applications, so that their data never goes down. Now, this is high availability. If any of the data centers in any availability zone goes or faces power outage or internet outage, but at the end of the day, the customers won't face any downtime because their applications and their data would be made available with the help of other data centers or availability zones that are up and running. Now, this is high availability. At the end, customers will never face any downtime. Their applications or data will never go down. And that is actually the core purpose of having a cluster of availability zone in one AWS region. A few days back, I was just going through a blog and on LinkedIn, and the guy told us that the region US East 1, which is the world's largest AWS region, consists of 6 availability zones. Okay, now each availability zone, let's say it has 3 data centers, then it means that the world's largest AWS region, US East 1, maybe consists of 15 to 18 data centers. This one largest AWS region, US East 1, may consist up to 15 to 20 data centers or availability zones. Now, this is actually the graphical representation of regions and availability zone. As we know that one single AWS region can have multiple availability zones, right? I hope that you know it. Now, we have these yellow dots as regions. I have North California region, I have Oregon region, and I have US West Go Cloud region. Now, each region consists of four or three dots, blue dots. Now, each dot represents an availability zone. Now, you can see the Oregon region has four availability zones. Okay. Now, similarly, the GovCloud US West has three availability zones, and similarly, North California has three availability zones. Now, each geographical location like Oregon or North California or US West can have multiple availability zones, and each yellow dot is a separate physical or geographical location, and it represents an AWS regions. So similarly, if we go through the world's map, then we are able to find AWS regions. I will show them to you later. And now we can see each AWS region can have multiple availability zones. Each region is represented with a yellow dot, and each availability zone is represented with a blue dot. All right, guys, now what is an AWS edge location? AWS edge location is also a data center with the core purpose of serving our content. I want to access my content. I want to have my content accessible as quickly as possible. I want to access my data as quickly as possible. Now, if I am from Pakistan and my virtual machine or my data is in US East 1, then it definitely means that if I'm going to access that data with that amount of distance, then there would be latency. If I am facing delays, then it definitely means that there is high latency. But to avoid high latency, AWS has built edge locations. These are data centers with one core purpose: to serve the content to the customers with minimum delays, with minimum latency. So that is known as edge location. So maybe I am accessing my data from the nearest data center, like from Mumbai or in Asia. So that would avoid the delay, that would avoid the latency, and I will access my data, I will access my applications with minimal latency. And AWS edge locations are primarily used by Amazon CloudFront. The service that covers all the edge locations is known as Amazon CloudFront. And AWS CloudFront is used to deliver content to the users with minimum latency. Guys, latency means the delay. Okay, delay to access your data, delay to access your application. And the core purpose of AWS CloudFront is to remove the delays, to get rid of the delays, and to reduce the latency so that the content is accessible to the users with high speeds. Okay, it also ensures that faster content delivery with the cached copy of the content is possible. So the users will access their content with faster speeds, and that is the purpose of AWS edge locations. Edge locations are built around the world by AWS. Now, these edge locations are actually known as the point of presence. CloudFront points of presence. Edge locations are known as CloudFront points of presence. AWS CloudFront has over 700 plus points of presence in 90 cities and across 47 different countries. And the core purpose is to serve the cached copy of content so that the users never face delays, the users never face latency. All right, guys, it's lab time, and we are going to see the AWS regions here. Regions. And now we can see the global infrastructure, regions, and availability zones. If I open it, and I will have a clear picture of AWS regions and availability zones. Now that actually website or that portal will have the latest information about AWS regions and availability zones. Now you can see the AWS cloud spans 117 availability zones. I have told you 114, but 3 availability zones are still in progress within 37 geographic regions with announced plans for 13 more availability zones. Okay, these are actually announced, and it means that there are 4 AWS regions that are coming soon on the global map, North America. And it has Gulf Cloud, US East, it has Canada Central, Canada West, Mexico Central, and it is North America. And we have also edge locations here. Now you can see there are actually 31 availability zones. The AWS cloud in North America has 31 availability zones, and there would be definitely more data centers within 9 geographic regions and 31 edge network locations and 3 edge cache locations. Now you can see all the locations are mentioned here. The edge cache locations actually have our cached copy of the content. That's why these are known as edge cache locations. Now, these are regions. AWS has the concept of a region, which is a physical location around the world where we cluster data centers. So, it means that one region can have multiple data centers, availability zones, and we can explore more about AWS regions. If I navigate to South America, you can see the map changes. Now, this is actually South America, and it has 2 geographic regions, Sao Paulo and Chile, which is coming soon. You can see South America, Chile. As I told you that it is coming soon, and in Europe, Ireland would be coming soon. And it has 31 edge locations and 9 geographic regions. If I check Asia Pacific, which is near to me, okay, and I have Hong Kong, Asia Pacific, Hyderabad, India, Jakarta, Malaysia, Mumbai. So there are actually 13 geographic regions and 23 edge locations. Lastly, Australia and New Zealand. New Zealand is coming soon. Now you can see here, New Zealand is actually coming soon with 3 availability zones. But you can see Australia, Sydney was launched in 2012 with 3 availability zones. And if I click on AWS Global Infrastructure, we can see here the most extensive global cloud infrastructure with 37 launched regions, 117 availability zones. And these are the actual benefits of having multiple regions, edge locations for availability, performance, scalability, and flexibility. So that's it for today, guys. We have discussed about AWS Global Infrastructure, about AWS regions, availability zones, data centers, and edge locations. In the next chapter, we are going to talk about AWS networking. Make sure that you have subscribed DevOps Molvi. Stay tuned, and I will watch you in the next chapter of AWS networking. Have a good one. Bye.